Welcome back to Mondays with Madeline. Today we're going to do a more family-oriented book, something that's a little bit easier and simple that is good for when you've got not as much time on your hands and you need to just whip something together that everybody's going to like. So this book is called Half-Baked Harvest. Super simple. It's more than 125 recipes for instant, overnight, meal prepped, and easy comfort foods. The author is Tegan Gerard, and this book is really cool actually. I've been kind of thumbing through it. It struck my fancy because I'm a full-time working mom and I've got a husband and 2 kids, and sometimes I want to do something tasty, but I don't have the time to do it. So this is a really, really great book. And this book also has a lot of really cool pictures in it. I love the landscapes that she has in it. And she's from a big family. There's a whole introduction about who she is and how she got cooking. And I like her story. I think she's really, has a nice take on things. And I honestly think this book is really cool the way she's got it set up. So this cookbook, one of the things is really cool. She's got over here on one of these pages like a little snippet that says instant pot, 10 ingredients or less, staples, 30 minutes or less in one pan. Her goal is to make your cooking as easy as possible while still having a lot of flavor and a lot of excitement to your food. And I think that's really important. I don't like basic, boring stuff myself. So the other thing about this book that I think is really cool is that she's got a section that says stock up and set up for success. This entire section tells you like staples that you should keep in your house all the time that you can make whatever you need it. She has it set up in sections where you have for the pantry, your shelf-stable liquids, canned and jarred condiments, sauces, the refrigerator, for the freezer, loose vegetables, and like miscellaneous must-haves is what she calls them. And that has like bread and frozen fruit, ice cream, and puff pastry. So it's kind of a cool like list setup if you want to have things in your house that you can always throw something together. And honestly, her assessment of that I think is fantastic. She's got a lot of great options on here that can make your life so much easier when you're cooking. And the other thing about this book is it's got a wide variety of setups. It's got the brunch all the way through, like breakfast and brunch, your appetizer, sides, salads and soup. She's got a whole bunch of pizzas in here if you like pizza and pasta, as well as vegetarian options. And she's got it set up where you've got poultry and pork, beef and lamb, and seafood and fish. And then she also does dessert. So I think that's, she does a wide variety and covers all the things you could want. Her pictures in here are really great. She's got a very rustic style to her, and the way she was plating up all the food and the way she's done a lot of these are very rustic and very homey. I think that's nice and makes it more easily accessible for the average person. And like I said, these are all really quick, easy. Like, okay, for example, she's got these pull-apart rolls. They're herb and garlic. I think they look delightful, and the prep time on it is only 15 minutes, and the cook time is 20 minutes. She also adds in there that you have to add in a little extra time for rising because it's bread, but the fact that you can make bread in even that short amount of time is fantastic. But the flavor combination she's got and the different things that she's got in here are really wonderful. I really like this book so far. I'm looking forward to producing one of her Actually, I'm going to do 2 of her recipes for this book. I've already selected them. I'm going to do an entree and a side because if I'm going to cook dinner, I need to have both. And she's got a mashed potato recipe in here that goes in your Instant Pot. And that's what we're going to do for our side, which I think is great. And I just got an Instant Pot, so trying it out with these new things and different types of recipes is going to be a lot of fun. Plus, using that and then cooking my entree in a pan, it's showing the diversity of this book. And that's about all I have about the book itself. I just love once again, I love the pictures and the quality of this book. I think that It's a nice size, honestly. Some of the bigger books are hard to actually cook with in the kitchen, but this is a really nice size. It'll go really well on a recipe book stand and everything. Plus the binding's not too tight, which is really helpful because sometimes when you have really tight binding, the pages will flip on you, which is a really big pain in the butt when you're actually like trying to cook with it. So I think this is this book is practical in every way. It's got practical recipes for everyday people and very practically put together, and the pictures are gorgeous, and I love the rustic take she's got on everything. So we're gonna go ahead and head on over to the kitchen and start our recipes. They're lying about this total time of 20 minutes. All right, so now I've gone over my recipes. I think one of the most important things when you're cooking, not even from just any cookbook, but just in general, is that you make sure you have all of your items together. As you can see, I have this entire spread, and because I'm making 2 recipes. I'm making mashed potatoes, and then I'm making gingered apple pork chops. So I read both of these recipes to see how long it takes. And this is one of those books that gives you like prep time and then cook time and the amount of time it should take total. We're gonna see about that because I kind of feel like some of these recipes are a little bit stingy. They say they take a lot faster than they actually do. These mashed potatoes are a little more complicated than I originally thought when I started the whole thing, or when I chose them anyway. But we're gonna go with it. And what I'm gonna do is I wanna time, and meal time is important, and timing things is really important. So I'm gonna do this where I'm gonna start my mashed potatoes, and then I'm gonna jump over to my pork chops, and I'm gonna get those seared off and get them cooking in the oven. And while they're cooking in the oven, I'm gonna go ahead and finish my mashed potatoes. That way, by the time I'm done with my mashed potatoes, the pork chops will be done, and we'll be able to go ahead and straight to serving them. Sometimes though that timing is hard to figure out, and that's why I sat here and I read these 2 recipes side by side and read the entire step-by-step instructions as well as all the ingredients to know what I'm doing, and then can time it out that way. So I've got everything set up. All my potato mixtures from here over, and all my pork chop stuff is over this way. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take you have to pressure cook your potatoes. So I've got an Instant Pot here. I'm going to go ahead and open it up. I'm not super familiar with my Instant Pot yet. Potatoes, they're Yukon Golds. We're going to put them in whole. They're not calling for you to slice them at all. Just toss them in there. The chef of this book, or the author of this book, even suggests that you don't even have to peel them. I like my potatoes peeled. That's just me personally. And with that being said, we're also going to do 4 cloves of garlic. I've got my garlic right here. I'm going to go ahead and smash them real quick. If you've never smashed garlic before, it's really easy. You just take your knife and you put it on the side like that, and you just get a little smash. Whatever you do, don't tip your knife up when you do this and smash your hand onto the knife blade. That would suck. Also, if you ever do this with really big cloves of garlic, they'll kind of like try to pop out the side, which is really annoying too. All right, and then we're also going to add in salt and a pinch of pepper. The salt that it calls for is about a teaspoon. I'm guesstimating it because that's how I do. And then 3 to 4 cups of water. They say just enough to cover the potatoes, which 4 cups is good. 4 cups is equal to 1 quart. And then once you do that, get your lid back on. And we're going to go to our pressure cook setting. And it says that we need to lock the lid and cook on high pressure for 10 minutes. Okay, so my pressure setting is high. And I'm going to go ahead and start. Alright, so So while that's going, I'm gonna go ahead and get my pork chop started and flip to my pork chop page so I know what I'm doing here. This recipe calls for 2 1-inch cut, 1-inch thick pork chops that are about 8 to 10 ounces each. I'm gonna go ahead and salt and pepper these bad boys. I'm a firm believer in making sure when you're cooking any sort of meat, getting a nice good crusting on it when you're doing your salt and pepper. We're gonna go ahead and flip these over and do the other side as well.
The pan's smoking pretty good.
Is it? I'm going to go ahead and set these behind me. While those are searing, I'm going to come back over here. And I've got 1 Honeycrisp apple that I'm going to go ahead and cut up. You want to cut your cores out of your apple. You don't want those to go in with this. I'm going to add just a touch more oil to my pan. Very nice here. We're going to flip these over. We're just searing each side of these. Your reason for searing any meat really is to make sure you get a nice crispy outside edge. It holds in the moisture. And when you're working with pork dries out easily, so it's better to have that sear. Meanwhile, I'm going to gather the rest of my ingredients. I've got my apples here. Let's see what our recipe says. Go ahead and smash our garlic again. This one only calls for 2 cloves. I'm going to do 3 because I like garlic a lot. And we're going to add, once these are done searing, we're going to put in the pan our apple cider and then apple cider vinegar, which I'm going to go ahead and measure out. We only need 2 tablespoons of the vinegar. And I'm going to dump that right in with our apple cider. And I've got some onions already cut up. It's 1 onion, 1 medium-sized onion, diced. And we're going to need some cumin seeds. It smells like these bad boys are done searing, and they look really good. I'm going to take them out and I'm going to set them to the side. I've got a plate ready here for me. And then I'm going to go straight in with my onions, fresh ginger, the smashed garlic that I just did, and we're going to do 2 teaspoons of cumin seed. onions are fragrant is kind of vague to me. But, I mean, you know.
Talk to us.
I just think it's vague when people say, oh, till onions are fragrant. What if you don't have as good of a sense of smell and you're not sure when that means? You know, she says about 5 minutes, you know, whatever. I usually like the terminology of, you know, when the onions are translucent or something along those lines, because that's like a visual cue that's really easy to understand. If you've never cooked before, until onions are fragrant is not going to be helpful to you. I'm going to say they're fragrant now myself. And you're going to go in with your apple cider and your apple cider vinegar. The recipe says bring this up to a boil. Once it boils, we're going to add our pork chops back into here. Sliced jalapenos, or I'm going to throw our apples right in there with it. And I dropped one. That's really sad. Don't drop your apples. You're also going to need, it's calling for, what, four sprigs of thyme. I'm going to use that loosely. I really like thyme a lot, so we're going to kind of go like that with our thyme. And then you're also doing grapes. I know, seems a little bit odd, but here we are. Yeah. So we've got our mixture boiling again. Now we're going to reduce our heat to low. We're going to take these pork chops and we're going to set them back in here. We're also going to kind of get the rest of these juices that were on the plate with it. We're going to dump those back in with this. I'm going to sprinkle these grapes on here. Along with our thyme. And we're going to go ahead and just kind of put the apples all around it. Along with these jalapenos. I'm going to put the jalapenos on top, I think, and kind of down in the sides, just so they can kind of get a nice flavor in there. So now that that's done, we're going to turn this off, and we're going to go ahead and put this straight in the oven. Your oven's supposed to be at 450 for this. I'm going to set my timer here for 10 minutes. The recipe calls for about 10 to 15 minutes. I always like to start on the lower side and then check it and then kind of go back. Meanwhile, our mashed potatoes are still working. I guess the pressuring on these things takes a while. I don't know, it says preheating. I don't use Instant Pots very often. Not sure how fast this is supposed to go. But I guess here I am waiting for it. When I could be just boiling my potatoes. So. Let me just say that up until recently, I haven't used a whole lot of cookbooks. Cooking professionally, you don't really use a whole lot of cookbooks, and I haven't worked in a lot of chain restaurants or anything like that where you have these specific recipes that you use all the time. I mostly worked at smaller fine dining places or where we're making things from scratch on a regular basis. So I'm used to making up my own recipes and just kind of relying on my knowledge and skills that I've developed over the years for cooking. So doing recipes is actually really hard, and I think a lot of people might get confused or have a struggle, think they may not be able to cook because of these recipes, because literally, you know, the recipe tells you 10 to 15 minutes, I put it in my oven, you know, 10 minutes later and the apples aren't even browned at all. You know, the grapes look like they're still fresh, they're probably cold in the center. You know, it's just one of those things where if you don't know what it's supposed to look like, and they don't actually tell you, and you just go based off these times, you're gonna get products that aren't right. And there's our Instapot. So I think that I'm supposed to release the pressure. I don't know how long I'm supposed to release the pressure. I just know that I don't want to take it off and have it blow up on me. Okay. Let me just say I'm never going to use my pressure cooker or the Instapot for mashed potatoes ever again. I'm going to boil my potatoes old school because it's easy. And then I have to do this or wait so long. I'm sorry, Instapot lovers. I don't need to be making fun of your favorite. I just a little confused. Alright, so I'm gonna guess that I can maybe at this point take this off. Maybe not. Oh, maybe that's why it started again, to tell me when I can take it off. Well, it's good to know that it has a safety mechanism on it so that you can't take it off too early. That's really cool, actually. Oh no, that's counting down how long it's keeping it warm. I don't know. I don't know anything about something. There we go. Alright, so you're supposed to drain these potatoes. Make sure you use, you know, pot holder or something to take this thing out. It's clearly very hot. Now instead of, like the recipe says, putting it back in your Instapot bowl, I'm gonna put mine into my mixing bowl because I don't have a hand mixer and I don't have a potato masher because, well, I have a KitchenAid. Do you need anything else? Alright, so we're going to put this back onto our mixer. I'm going to put my paddle attachment on. Listen, I know that a lot of people, if you have a mixer like this and you do mashed potatoes, you might be tempted to use the whip attachment to make your mashed potatoes. Don't do that. Honestly, that's how you get those weird sticky potatoes. You don't want to develop the starches in your potatoes too much. It's a very important thing to learn. Okay, so we're going to add in our cream first, based on the recipe. I'm going to throw my all the little side strings. I like to make sure I have all that cream in there. I know you healthy people or vegan people are saying, oh God, why do you use so much cream? But it's worth it. You don't want to turn this on too high when you first start because otherwise it's going to splash you. Also, if you a lot of times I normally cut up my potatoes before I cook them because, you know, sometimes they don't cook evenly. So I've got a potato in here that's not, that's bigger than the rest of them, and it's not mashing up. So I'm actually going to go ahead and like scoop it out because I don't want to have like a half-cooked potato in my potatoes, you know. Once again, Instapot. I'm not sure your work. I just don't understand why anybody would want to go through the hassle of doing the whole Instapot thing instead of just boiling your freaking potatoes. It's just like I'm actually in awe about it. All right. So now that we've got these mixed up, I'm gonna go ahead and scrape the sides of my bowl. I'm gonna go ahead and take these out. I'm gonna set it off to the side here. This recipe, once you take it out of the oven, it suggests you put, you melt butter, or you throw some butter on the top of each one. I'm gonna go ahead and do that. I think it sounds good. I think this woman likes to use butter a lot. She's my kind of lady. In the meantime, we're going to go ahead and add our Parmesan cheese and our 2 tablespoons of mascarpone. Mascarpone cheese is kind of like cream cheese, but it's not. It's better. I'm going to mix these in. And now is when you're going to go ahead and add in your brown butter and sage. So she does tell you to make sure you check your salt and pepper content on this to make sure that you got the right amount. Look at this. I went to take a scoop to try it and I got another chunk of not cooked potato. Definitely need some salt. A little bit of pepper. That's pretty good. I will say the flavor on this recipe is great. I like the sage in there and the brown butter. I don't know how safe this is going to be for your children. If they're super picky and they want plain mashed potatoes, I would not serve them this. My kids might eat it. Now listen. I keep going back to eat more. If I do that, it means I really like it. The flavor's great on this. With the cheese and the mascarpone in it. Very, very good. I love it. I still wouldn't use an Instant Pot though. It's not the author's fault. Of course it's not the author's fault.
Because you could have boiled the potatoes.
Well, I'm cooking it as the author tells me to cook it.
It said Instapot, didn't give you the choice?
It said a pressure cooker or Instapot.
Okay, I thought it was,
No, it didn't suggest to boil them at all.
Okay.
right, so the author says to melt the butter over your pork chops, let them sit 5 minutes, then take them out. She suggests cutting them off the bone and slicing them. We're gonna go ahead and try that with one of them, I guess, for our Play-Doh. Okay, so I'm very excited about these, to tell you the truth. The smell that's coming off of them is wonderful. Okay, so we've got our bones separated. And I'm gonna let it sit there for just another second while I grab my mashed potatoes here. It doesn't suggest in the book that you serve this dish with the mashed potatoes, but I just thought that the two of them would be nice together, and I mean, who doesn't want to starch when they're eating this? I mean, this could always be served with rice, but I just feel like a big hunk of meat like that should not be served with rice. Rice is more delicate and I think goes better with, you know, fish and things like that. So we're gonna go ahead and slice our pork chop. I'm gonna turn it this way to cut it. She says to divide the carrots. There are no carrots in this dish. To divide the apples, the grapes, and the jalapenos up evenly on 4 plates, and that this is basically meant to feed 4 people. Depending on the eaters in your house, could be 4 people, maybe. Let's try a piece of the meat. Yeah, the flavor on the meat is fantastic. Kudos to this author. The apple cider and apple cider vinegar to cook these in goes perfectly. I mean, perfectly with the pork. And I'm gonna go ahead and take some of my apples right there. Watch out for your thyme sprigs. I'm basically making a little bed on this for my meat to sit. I like to add height to my plate whenever I make things, even if I'm at home. Sometimes I like to play around and do cool things like this. But we're basically just gonna make a little pillow for it. And I'm gonna go ahead and take my meat and I'm gonna layer it. I think it's really important when you're making any sort of pork, you don't want to cook it like super duper well done. That's how you dry it out. This is a really good medium well that I've got here. This will feed my entire family and happily, where like they won't be mad about the temperature on it. All right, and it says to use some of your pan sauce on top. It's almost like a little like pot roast style gravy kind of thing. I'm gonna also, just for fun, put a couple of apples on top with this really nice roasted jalapeno pepper here. I kind of like the idea of the peppers in here because I like the spicy and the sweet flavor together. And I'm just gonna take one of these and stick it there. Oops. And I'm just going to do a little bit more of the sauce. And voila! Dinner's done. I need to say overall this is not a super difficult recipe to do. I think that the flavors on it are fantastic. I just, once again, would check the prep time and the cook time on these. You need to be able to kind of work with it, whatever action needs. So pay attention when you're cooking anything from this book. But based on this recipe alone and what I've kind of skimmed over in the rest of the book, I definitely suggest this book to bring home. It's got a lot of good ideas and options in it for family meals that are definitely not super high ingredient lists or anything like that. And I'm really looking forward to serving this to my family. I think it's going to be fantastic. So hit the like button, subscribe, leave us some comments, tell us what you think, and we'll see you next time on Mondays with Madeline. All right, so I just spent the last 10 minutes cleaning up and snacking on this recipe that I had made. Okay, let me start over. Half-Baked Harvest, super simple. Tegan Gerard, get this book. I just spent the last 10 minutes raving about how much I love the flavors on this dish that I made from here. I don't get that excited all the time about recipes from other people's books, but man, all the flavors were spot on. The whole thing tasted fantastic, and it just left my mouth feeling happy. I really highly recommend you getting this book for your family. We're gonna do a follow-up with this one now because I wanna do more recipes. So we're probably gonna pick a dessert recipe or something along those lines. So keep your eye out for that coming up in the near future. Thanks for watching.